So it's a pleasure to welcome so many new faces to Crete, and today I take off my academic hat and I put on my hat of the ex-teacher of this school, because as you'll see in many of the photographs that will be shown, I also was here as an assistant to the eco-actives. Me and my wife, who is actually still a teacher here and part of the Erasmus program. And I hope today to be able to show you why we had such a smiling crowd. I think the most important thing when you do stuff which is important is not to do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, X amount of time every week, let's say, or every day, or whenever you have it in your timetable, but actually to make sure that we do things, we create things, we have fun during doing so, and we make sure that we impart those smiles. So I hope, if nothing else, during this small presentation, we'll be able to inspire you to do some things of this type yourselves. So for my presentation today, you see it in the timetable as being very, very long, but actually it has three parts. It has the part that shows you, let's say, the past, what has happened up to last year with the eco-actives and the school's environmental team. What the second part contains is us creating a gift for you to take back home, and for the currently enlisted eco-actives of this year to take back home with them. It's a beeswax medicinal ointment that we'll be doing only from natural products, and which is something that you can even do at home, let's say. And the third part will also be a hands-on workshop. But the third part will not take place here. But for the third part, we'll go to the backyard of our school, where most of the action usually takes place, where the composter is situated, and where, let's say, we held many of our activities. So, without further ado, because I find that it's practical to speak with introductions as little as possible, and I've already spoken enough, let us move on to what we have done here. So, first of all, let's speak about what we wanted to do. We wanted not to have theory, but also action, to have blended learning, action and theory together, which would be hands-on. We would be doing things even with our hands, even with our souls, even with our smiles, and also educating our families and other significant people in our community, and also creating benefit for the community. So you'll see this was the ideology, let's say, that the eco-actives decided upon from the very beginning. So for this reason, we came into contact with a local group called the Ark of Seeds, or Ark of Seed Keeping. That local environmental group is a group that tries to preserve heirloom seeds. In other words, seeds that are not genetically modified so as to produce only for 1 year, but seeds that you can plant and replant every year, so that we could learn how to preserve our seeds, plant our plants, eat some of the products that we would make, and do other things. So we hope that we learn some things, and you'll be the judge of how well you think we did. So let's start. We try to have action blending learning, learning in action. I used to be an English teacher here, so we also try to have some stuff that would be related to the learning and teaching of English. So we also watched some videos in English, and then also making it sustainable. At the time that the Composter was, that you'll see immediately afterwards, was finished, it was actually the first of its kind, the first in Europe, that was a fully automated composter that could, after it's being planted, it could do things automatically. It could irrigate itself automatically. It could sustain itself automatically, and if a parent or somebody from the local community wanted to contribute, they would be able to do so without needing the input of a student or a teacher to do so. So, the Ecoactive starts up to and including last year. 406 students, not all of them in one go, as you understand. The maximum we could have per year was 60 people. Quite often more people wanted to join in, but we had to have a ballot so as to decide who would be joining in. 9 teachers over the years, and you see some other things. I think a very important statistic also, and this excludes the COVID time that we were not allowed to plant and seed and share seeds and everything for 3 years. So we are after those 3 years now. Unfortunately, that's why the photos you'll see are more impressive than what we have currently, but we are getting back there, is 9 cultivation seasons. So we were able to have the winter cultivation season, or the fall cultivation season, and the spring cultivation season, and we were able to produce and do things. Now, because what we did was something that other schools wanted to actually get more info on and maybe replicate. We also filed some of the documents for a pan-European competition that took place in Sintra, Portugal. And we were runner-ups there. Then we also registered this through the UNESCO Schools Initiative. So some files in relation to that are held there, for those of you who are more technically oriented. Now, what exists in the backyard? Of course, you have the previous version, because after 3 years, the iron parts needed to be changed, so you'll see that it looks a little bit different, and it had to be redrawn in a different way. This is the composter itself. You can actually see here that there are holes at various parts, and those holes are actually filled with soil. They communicate with the inner part of the composter so that the composting materials make this soil more fertile. That's why each of the ecoactives was able to plant one of these, and you can see that the ecoactives of that year could be approximately 30 people, because you can see some empty spots there. So each one of them was able to plant their own seed or their own seedling, to see it grow, maybe test the product, and actually see what they can do even at home. Composting is very easy. So if we weren't there, nature would be doing it itself. So how can we compost? We can actually take all the food produce that we have after cooking, or everything that we have that rots away, let's say, and rather than leaving it rot, we throw it into the composting bin, and then we have our tireless helpers that you'll see shortly, and they start the process. Rather than it taking, let's say, a few hundreds of years for hardwood, here in this system it takes maximum 96 days for hardwood and maximum 2 days for soft produce, such as potato peels and stuff like that. So you can see here that it was filled to the brim through the little doors that we used for filling it in, and you can see the bottom doors that we used to have so as to take the ready-made compost to use at our potting and our planting away from the composter. So the composter looks simple on the outside, but it's actually quite complex and on the inside, because all its bottom, not just the visible part, is a mini pond. It's a mini lake, where everything that is composted seeds into the lake, and thus the water that exists in the pond is not just water, but it's vermicompost. It's a really, really strong compost, the strongest type of compost found in nature. So you can even see that the plants that are there that exist in what should be just water, they exist and they thrive there, and we were able to plant in water banana trees and eat the bananas that were grown inside water. So we had some fish, as you can probably read from what is here. The fish were our marker, let's say, because if we saw the fish coming for oxygen high up, we used goldfish, because goldfish is quite staunchy as fish, and they could survive even in environments that are not optimum. So if we could see them high up for oxygen, we did something wrong. So in this way, the students were able to see that, hey, we have 1 week to solve the problem. Something happened there. Maybe we threw in a lot of plastic by accident. So let's say the earthworms didn't have access to the material to compost it. So they had, let's say, 1 week, 10 days to remediate the problem. So here you can see our workers, let's say, our unpaid workers that exist almost everywhere in nature are earthworm. So this is what they look like. They are not the regular earthworm that you can find everywhere in the world, but they are actually a mixture of Australian and Siberian earthworm that are very, very fast and can move up and down very, very quickly. We used two varieties so that they would be able to work amiably and let's say have no problem if the students made a minor mistake. So they are quite staunchy, I repeat. So how did this happen? We found an inventor, Mr. Manolis Papadimitropulos, who has taken probably 45 years of his life developing this, and he was one of the scientific committee people that was involved with the ARC seed that I mentioned earlier, and he agreed to make the first school eco-composter of this type here. The one important thing to say is that for those of you whose families could be related to farming, you might already know that we use chemicals most of the time, chemical fertilizers to help our soil, to help our plants, and so on and so forth. But those fertilizers very, very quickly degrade, and if we use excessive fertilizers, they go down into the water basins, and they pollute our waters. Whereas this thing becomes very, very stable. In other words, it becomes so stable and so strong that the plants can take as much as they want, and then the remainder remains as a type of soil substrate, compost, and in this way, if the plant doesn't need it, it's there for the next plant and the next plant and the next plant. And of course, to give you an idea of how strong this is, let's say 1 cubic meter of grass, because the municipality gave us grass and some hotels and so on and so forth, 1 cubic meter of grass becomes mostly liquid, so the plants could take it immediately, and approximately 42 liters of solid compost remained. So you understand that suddenly I say suddenly, but it took the inventor 45 years to develop, as you understand. We had a solution for some of the big hotels that have a lot of loans and had huge bills to foot for handling their gardens. So they suddenly didn't need so much spending for garbage disposal, for garden garbage disposal. So 2 or 3 things about this, because I have a lot of text, but it's the beginning, so it has the theory. This thing totally substituted the chemicals. So all the pictures that you'll see from now on of any plants and anything made has no additional chemical applied to it apart from what was used here from, let's say, the remainders of our house or restaurant or hotel or municipality garden and food produce. So this is the general view of what it looked like. Now it looks a little bit different. I repeat, it has been repainted recently. And next to it, we have a carob tree. It's a carob tree that is quite important in its genes, because it makes really big carobs that are tasty, that are full of carob honey. So they are of the variety that needed to be preserved. That's why we use some of the compost for it. Under it, as you can see, we have planted some plants that do not need so much sun, which could also be planted in countries of, let's say, Western Europe or northern climates. So on the other side of the composter, you have the flower beds that were used for flowers, fruit, and other things that we used so as to actually multiply seeds, but also so as to enjoy the produce and give it for charity. So another view of the composter, you can see here. I'm sure you can see different plants, because these are photos taken in different periods. So each cultivation period, we had different ecoactives, so they planted different things, and that's why we had different things on there. Here you can actually discern at the back side the banana tree. We had 2 banana trees, and they produced well. So 1 year of the ecoactives with some of the smiles that I mentioned earlier, and you can see the first cauliflower of that year that they collected. This is why they are posing with the cauliflower in the foreground, and then 2 small salads that they had made, because it's good to make it, but if you can taste it, then it's even better. So these are salad stuff that we collected. And also the ointment that we make, like the one that we'll make now, which you can take back at home. And we made ointment that you can see here at the top middle. We made some carob honey that you can see on the left corner, and some Christmas ornaments that we sold for charity. And also on the top right corner, you can see also some other reuse actions that we had for how to reuse our old clothes and make accessories that would look modern and hip. So other things that we did was we learned how to graft trees. In other words, how to take a tree and change its variety. So on the top left corner, you can see grafting. Next to it, you can see one of the students picking the carobs from the carob tree in the old way, in the way that the Minoans did it as well, which is basically by using a long stick and then touching the carobs so that they can fall. Then you can, on the top right corner, you can see that we packed some of the seeds that we made, like, for example, a type of white corn variety that is an edible corn variety, with some instructions on when to plant it so as to have the best results. And we also, at the bottom middle, you can see a visit we had at an eco monastery, where we planted some olive oil trees. And you visited already this school. In the front yard there was a scarcity of trees, so we wanted to plant some more trees. So actually you can see on the bottom right corner some students planting some of the mini trees that you have next to the main entrance of the school, which are still there. Now, we also used the seeds we kept them, and next year we actually made seedlings. You can see our sprouts. And you can also see students planting some herbs that they could use in the kitchen. We wanted to see how we can plant in places that there is very little or no water and very bad soil, how we could make that soil better so as to plant in it. And you can see some of the photos of doing so. So it wasn't a lazy time, let's say. It was a fun time, but definitely not lazy. We did certain things. Each one of the students named their sprouts. So Mitsos the zucchini was a running joke because one of the students, Manolis, called his sprout Mitsos, which is like a hip way of saying Jim. And this is Mitsos in action when he started blooming and giving and making beeswax ointment. You can see how it looks when it is being made. At first it looks quite transparent and liquid, but then little by little, when it cools down, it becomes more solid, semi-solid, we should say. Then we also made soap. Crete is famous for its olive oil, so we made olive oil soap by asking the students to bring in olive oil from home. And for soap making, they didn't just need to bring the pure olive oil that we use for the ointment, but they could actually also bring some pre-cooked versions that were no longer edible. So we used everything. We tried to use everything. The process of making the soap, you can see how it looks like. And because we enjoyed being a little lazy sometimes, we also used some mechanical tools. And you can see that how it went. And when it was ready, then we actually packed it in empty yogurt cans, and we kept it there for 3 months to mature. So, it is one of the things that we said is that it's good to smell what we do, because it actually smells quite nice. It smelled mostly of olive oil, and some of the students actually peeled some oranges and lemons, so that it smelled of orange and lemon. Some others had essences added to it, natural essences, so it kind of looked nice. And after this school, this was made. This is one of the biggest hotels in our area, in Elunda. It's called Blue Palace, and actually they were here when we had the inauguration of our composter. And let's say they didn't just passively hear, but they listened. And when they listened, they decided that they had a few hundred tons of material that needed handling. So they made a composter that was automated enough and big enough so as to handle all their dozens of tons every month. So this is what it looks like. You see the automated doors to open and close the composter. Now, this concludes the theoretical part of my presentation. I hope it wasn't too theoretical, but now it's time to have a mini workshop. So, so as to be able to see it with your own eyes, and actually also be able to experience what we did, I think it's only fitting that we make some beeswax ointment for you to take back home with you. For the first couple of hours, when you hold it in your hands, you have to wait for it to become semi-solid. By tonight, you can actually apply it on your skin. It works like a moisturizing cream, let's say. But in the old times, when medication was scarce, people used it for like a panacea for just about everything, because it can't do anything wrong on the human body. So it can be used for just about anything in a neutral or positive way, even as a mild antiseptic. Apart from using it in open wounds, because then it kind of closes the wound and it slows down the healing process. But everything else it can help with. So, without further ado, do we have any people who would like to help with the making? Okay, one?
Only one? Someone don't be sure.
Okay, two, come. Three, okay. No, I don't know, listen, because I don't know the students, I don't know which countries I've chosen from, so maybe you know.
All these are Greeks.
All these are Greeks, okay, so how about,
Austrians.
okay, so how about you help me also pick some people from other countries?
Okay, from the Austrians, come on.
One person.
Just one.
Maybe.
Okay, just one. I want a Spanish student. Where is the Spanish group? I can't see you. Don't come. Yes, it is. Great. We've got more from the Netherlands. Super. Are they enough?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so come up here. I think there are steps from here. Yes, come. So, I will need to shout a little bit. I will need to shout a little bit because holding a microphone and trying to work with hot stuff doesn't work out really well. So I hope you can hear me. I'll try to shout as much as possible. But I also need your help, because if I shout and you shout louder, we won't have anything, right? So let's try let's try to keep a little bit quiet so that you can hear the instructions. When somebody knows how to do this and doesn't need to give instructions, the whole process lasts approximately 13 to 14 minutes. By giving some instructions, we'll do it maybe in 16 to maximum 20 minutes. After that, we are done here, and we can actually go to the back side. Actually, just give me one question, 1 minute. Ρένα, μήπως είναι σκόπιμο να τους αφήσουμε τώρα που χτύπησε και θα γίνεται χαμός, να τους αφήσουμε να κάνουν ένα πεντάλεπτο διάλειμμα, ούτως ώστε να χαλαρώσουν και από το πρώτο και να δουν το δεύτερο και μετά πάμε πίσω?
Ό,τι θέλεις.
Okay, I think, listen, just last minute small change, because we will have a lot of outside noise. So, why don't you enjoy a small break? I think this break is only for 5 minutes.
No, it's 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay, even better. two or three words as an introduction before my assistants, or I should be their assistant actually. They should be the makers. Start the process. Beeswax ointment in the past differed widely from house to house. All the people knew how to make it, but let's say folk making and scientific making are different. This applies for soap making. This applies for anything that we do with herbs or any of the natural ingredients. So we used this also as a lesson in chemistry and mathematics of proportions. So we used pure olive oil, so you'll be using that. Thank you. And then we use the precision scales, right? So somebody should be the scales person, the person who is in charge of the scales. And then we use either inox steel or something made of tempered glass that cannot break, right? Usually in school we use tempered glass, but we make it for 20, 30 people. Now we want to make it for 60 people, so we needed a bigger pot, so we'll be using this pot, right? Then we bought this for the ecoactives, which is actually where we heat it up. But we try to heat it up at 45 degrees Celsius and not more, because then it loses its medicinal properties. And then we can use either knives, kitchen knives, or a grater, right? So as to take this thing here that looks a little bit strange, and it has two colors if you notice, okay? So the color that is lighter is the actual beeswax proper, and the color that is a little bit darker is a type of antiseptic that the bees make, which they put at the very entrance of their bees hives, and it keeps away all the bacteria. It's a natural antibiotic, and it's called propolis. Okay, so that's why you can see that it has two different colors. So one of the parents of one of the ecoactives keeps bees, so we were able to take this from him and to make all our beeswax ointment. Now, I need what's your name?
Felix.
Felix. So what Felix is holding here, and this is very important to note, is that he is holding pure olive oil that has not been cooked. So if you smell it, does it smell nice? No. How does it smell?
Like oil.
It smells like oil. Okay, it's oil, but you said it doesn't smell nice. Why?
Because oil doesn't smell nice.
Sorry?
Because oil doesn't smell that nice.
Try to speak louder.
Oh, it's
Okay, Felix is saying, I'll speak up louder, that oil in general doesn't smell nice. So, yes, okay, but what is important to say here is that this is an olive oil that is not blunt. You can smell it, that it is oil. The important thing when you use olive oil to make beeswax ointment is that if you cannot smell it, if you open a bottle and you cannot smell it at all, not good. Okay? It needs to smell of olive oil. If it doesn't smell of olive oil, then it's not, the oil part in it is not medicinal anymore. Clear? So good or bad, it smells something. So we had a minor victory. Thank you. You can let it here. Now, one person is in charge of the scales, and 3 people, very, very softly, because these are knives, right? Mm-hmm. You come here and you do this. You take it like this. You don't put your hand so as to do something. You take it like this and you put it here. So basically what we want to do, but don't put your finger against the knife, okay? So what we want to do is to have flakes that are not very big so that it doesn't take a long time for it to melt, so that it melts easily and it doesn't use its medicinal properties, right? Because we could put it in this way, the whole thing, if we wanted to make a gigantic quantity, but it would take forever to melt if it's like this, and some of its medicinal properties would be lost, okay? Now, I have a question. Do you know how long it lasts for beeswax to go off? Anybody? Πόσο καιρό κάνει για να χαλάσει το κερί της μέλισσας? Yes? You there? 5 days you say? No, longer. Yes?
3 years.
3 years, longer.
15 years.
15 years, longer.
50 years.
50, longer.
100.
Longer.
30 years.
Longer.
50 years. 500 years.
Longer.
For infinity.
Not infinity, but you are close. Anybody?
70 years.
Yes? 100,000 years, you say. What we know for sure, because of beeswax that has been found in Egypt, is that when well preserved, beeswax can last for 3,200 years without an issue. Wow. Right? So beeswax from Egypt has been found to have a lot of its medicinal properties after 3,200 years. So you can see how stable this thing is. Now, so one ingredient is super stable, the other is not super stable. Olive oil, I repeat what I told you. If it doesn't smell, it's not good, which means that it needs to be fresh. So olive oil is the most sensitive ingredient that makes this ointment, let's say, go off. That's why, because of olive oil, we need to use it relatively fast so that it doesn't lose its properties, right? Now, because it's a stable material, even if you put it in a very humid place, store it in a humid place, and let's say the top of it goes off, you can just throw it away and use the rest of it. It's not harmful in any case. Clear? Right. So, Felix, you are the olive oil person.
How to take this?
Yes. So, Felix will come here, and you come to the front, and then we have. Okay. So you hold this. The rest of you, can you start doing this?
Yeah.
On top of here. Θα τα κατεβάσω εγώ, Άστος. Okay, so please set this up. I think it's set up from It's automatically set up. So, Felix, can you wait? Oh, we need to wait for it to zero down. So we didn't do it. That's why now it's minus. Good. So use the unit of grams and then Ελπινίκη, εκεί θα τα στήσουμε για να μπορούν να τα παίρνουν τα παιδιά απευθείας. Ίσως να βάζεις σε 2 μαθητές. Okay, so you see how much do we have? More than 1 kilo, right? So for those of us who are here, how many people do we have here?
70.
70. Okay, so we will need to use, let's say, 1,200. So 1.2. So you need to be weighing until you have 130 something grams, right? Stop and weigh just in case to see. Ah, yeah, you're right. It needs a lot. Πρόσεχε τα χέρια σας ο ένας με τον άλλο. Be careful, not like this. Be careful.
I think it's okay.
Okay, so you know best. I think it's not enough. You need to take away 60 grams more. Hard work.
A little bit.
Okay. Can I help a little? Look. I do it like this.
Oh, yes.
Λίγο.
Easier.
Yeah.
Easier.
Like this?
Yeah. Felix, the stopper. Felix, put it here.
Oh, I thought
Difficult like that.
yeah, the top especially.
Okay. So, Felix, you are finished.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, αυτό έχει πολύ πρόπολη. Okay, let's count now. Let's count what we have already.
Outside, you can go.
Wait. Oh, no. We need more. We need more. We need 3 times.
Oh, we need the top. Το πάνω χρειαζόμαστε.
Anything is okay.
Το πάνω. Ναι.
No, don't worry. You're fine. Όχι. Here, because we need to measure it. We need to count it.
It is a kind of cream.
Yes.
Cream to put in your hands.
Yes. we could have done this in 5 less minutes, but if we did it in 5 less minutes, then we would do it in a way that we would make either for 30 people maximum, or we would do it in a way that we would lose the medicinal qualities. So this is the only thing to be aware of, that we use this thermometer. You saw me using it, and I don't want it to pass 47, 48 degrees, right? Because if it passes that, then the medicinal qualities of the beeswax, most of them will be preserved, but the medicinal and cosmetic qualities of the olive oil will not be preserved. So now, what Felix said at the beginning, that he could smell the olive oil, maybe you have started smelling it now. It starts smelling a little bit, because the olive oil starts using its ingredients that are what we call, just give me a second, what we call gaseous ingredients. So the gaseous ingredients become a gas. So you can smell them in the air. The more we can smell it, then the less it will be preserved in here. So that's why what I've done here now is that I've actually switched off the kettle totally, and I'm waiting for it to cool down a little bit. So while it cools down, it homogenizes itself. So the first stage was that the beeswax became almost white inside it, although it's not white here, as you can see. So after it became white, it started giving off the ingredients, so that those ingredients could actually stay inside the ointment. Now, what we will do now is that I will show you how we fill one of these, and then the rest, because I don't want you to wait here while we are doing it, we can actually share after they cool down a little bit, because I don't want you to burn your hands. After they cool down a little bit, you can take them on your way out today, right? Yeah. But at the beginning, when you do this, at the beginning they are very hot, right? So I take this, I put it here. Why am I not burning my hands? Yes? Yes, but also because it's not very hot. I didn't heat it up very much. Okay, it's not boiling. So now this is how it looks like. It's almost liquid. But this thing that is almost transparent and liquid will become totally opaque and whitish looking, right? So now for the rest of the affair, I think we need 2 of the grown-ups to do this, so that we don't have anybody accidentally burning their hands, right? Θέλω ένα βιβλίο. Ένα βιβλίο. Ένα βιβλίο.
Here or downstairs?
Downstairs. Ένα βιβλίο, ένα βιβλίο. Ναι, γιατί αυτό είναι πλαστικό χρώμα. No, the color under it will melt. That's why we need a book.
It's not a problem if the book melts.
No.
Or burns.
No.
Or burns.
Actually, the kettle is quite hot.
Maybe
So,
this.
so basically, I do it like this.
2 spoons.
Yeah. Let's say it should be like that, not too filled up.
Okay.
And then I do it like this. Okay. So.
You have just 1 spoon?
You can.
Yes.
Yes, you can do it.
I clean it.
Yes.
You do it, I clean it.
Yeah.
Clean some.
I think this is why I asked you to do this, so that I can take them and show them some of the plants.
Yeah.
And by the time you finish, we will be going to the composter part.
Yeah, we can do it.
I don't want to miss it. Yeah.
I don't want to miss it either.
Okay, so
Maybe we can
how
do it
about?
and you go.
But
They go.
I can ask Gabi to do it.
You can do it.
So yes.
Συγγνώμη, δεν μπορώ να το λέω πολλές φορές, Αλέξανδρε, και εκεί πίσω γενικότερα. Όχι, να τελειώσω και μετά. Λοιπόν, αφού το τελειώσουμε το άλλο πρόγραμμα, δεν φεύγετε, γιατί θα πρέπει να πάρετε, όσοι δεν έχετε πάρει τις υπεύθυνες δηλώσεις για κλειτσά στην αλόγα, τα χρήματα, τα υπόλοιπα να δώσετε κτλ. Δεν φεύγετε λοιπόν το μεσημέρι. Εκτός από αυτό, όσοι πάνε κλειτσά, αύριο έχουμε ραντεβού στο κτέλ, όχι στο κτέλ πάνω, ψηλά, που μαζεύονται τα, κάνει ένα πλάτωμα, που μαζεύονται τα εργαλεία, παιδιά. Στο Τζόρτζι τα εργαλεία από δίπλα, έχει έτσι ένα πλάτωμα, εκεί, 8 η ώρα το πρωί, να είστε εκεί. Όσοι έχετε και το παιδάκι, φυσικά μαζί σας το παιδάκι. Κατανοητό, όσοι πάνε κριτσά, μισό λεπτό, ραντεβού εκεί, αύριο το πρωί, όσοι δεν πάνε εκδρομή, έρχονται. Όλγα, συγγνώμη, κρατάω το μικρόφωνο και πάλι φωνάζω. Γιατί όσοι δεν πάνε εκδρομή, Όλγα, έρχονται σχολείο τώρα δικά.
Πώς είναι αυτά? Δεν είναι πολλά.
Babies can, like the baby butt.
Προφανώς πάλι από το ίδιο
Πολλά δεν είναι. Πώς είναι?
θα σας πούμε αύριο. Πες μου.
44 είναι εδώ. Είναι καλά.
Ναι. Okay, so the first part that always cools down is the lower part. Always.